Cool,
Okay,
cool.
so hey Alex, welcome to today's intro video. This is where we give you the chance to talk about who you are and introduce yourself to the rest of the members of the Texas Engineering and Technology Network. So,
Perfect.
Alex, who are you?
Yeah, so Alex Seguin, I grew up in Texas. I actually went to Pflugerville High School up the road in Austin. So graduated with the Air Force background, fixing planes. I got a chemical engineering degree. Figured that was better than doing explosive ordnance disposal for the Army. So I was actually almost about to do that. So that was kind of crazy. But wanted out of oil and gas. So I knew AI was going to be a big thing. And so I ended up doing product management for a few companies, including Fluke, which does thermal imaging, as well as multimeters. And then FLIR, which does a lot of thermal imaging also for defense and drones. And then a company called Shield AI as well that did autonomous aircraft stuff. So now at COVID, I got let go from a big $10 billion acquisition. So they were just cost cutting prior to acquisition. And basically started two companies. One's de-risking strategies, focusing on like early market ideas under $100,000 revenue products. And then AI ML technology solutions, where we have an initiative called Excel AI. And that's a C Corp we can do fundraising in, but it's really focused on not only preparing AI to serve the future of humanity, but also bringing education and changing the whole paradigm, how we do education. The vision is really to start people with AI machine learning model training, get anyone doing that, being able to pay the students globally. So I have a mom from Cambodia, for instance. Like, how cool would it be if we could actually teach Cambodian kids and then pay them $3 to $5 an hour, which is a lot for them, and then do that all over the world for machine learning model training, and then do things like that are fun, like gaming and other applications as well. Robot laser tag is one of the concepts we have, but using AI for laser tag for a gaming environment, so that people can see kind of the capabilities, but having fun in the process.
Very cool. Okay, that's a very, very interesting evolution to where you are in the business.
Yeah, very, very different. So I kind of looked out where I had opportunities at big German chemical company, $100 billion company, Honeywell, $36 billion company. I was chief of staff and taught people how to do strategy and development and taught value pricing for product managers. So I was really fortunate to get a lot of global exposure on how to run cross-functional teams from like Germans and big Honeywell corporations. So I was able to really transfer that a lot into everything I do now. So when we move fast, so, I think the best AI is the one between your ears, right? And it's like, how fast can you move? Well, we have a background in our team where we have a lot of experience. So whereas maybe some teams might need 5 people to do some tasks, we have 2 or 3 people doing the same. And then we outsource a lot of development for our sensor fusion app, for instance. We did it in 3 months. And that's like unheard of. Making 15 grand or 50 grand in 6 months of starting a business is like also unheard of. So we're really focused, right? And we have a lot of good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's very impressive. So obviously with that background, you've got a lot to offer. So what is your superpower that you can share with the members of the Texas Engineering and Technology Network?
Yeah, so my background is actually thinking about applications in the real world, since I do have the background with manufacturing for airplanes, but also chemical manufacturing environment, and really bring that breadth all the way into the business. So like having a point focus, driving from strategy all the way to developing concepts to a stage gate process where it's, for me, it takes a few days to draft a small business case with the financials, with the value props and differentiation and willingness to pay assessments. Some people, it takes a month, And so I could iterate. Ultimately, my superpower really is just the iteration, 50, 100 times before I even put stuff on paper. So that idea is pretty well de-risked by the time it gets to developers' hands.
Cool. That is very, very profound, and a lot of our members, in the engineering and tech space, that iterative process before you put the first shovel in the ground or write the first code can save you a ton of pain down the road.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, just to give some context, there's a simulation world that it's very easy for an average person to create realistic, real-world examples in Unreal 5, but you can mock up stuff in a virtual environment and have mock-ups of your AI running in the virtual environment from anywhere in the world and just pull on demand, like what they call hardware in the loop simulation, where your hardware is physically plugged in, running inside a sim and getting better. And that's one of the things I'm trying to figure out how to do on a global scale, which is, hey, we have this to take an R2D2 robot. Well, how can someone do a rev on that? How can someone add capability to that? Really figure out, the global crowdsourcing and improving that cycle and iteration as a global team through gig economy workers first, and then eventually part-time and full-time as we get the experience and the funding. So,
Oh, okay. Now, that sounds really interesting. That's great. Okay, so you seemed as if you've really got a good handle on the AI pulse.
yep.
So within the network, what can we help you with?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's for Texas. How do we get Texas? I mean, if you see my logo, like there's a Texas as a computer chip in the middle of a brain with like a drone and a quad robotic thing. Like the reason we did that is because we really wanted to bring Texas as a forefront, specifically Austin, because they do have a lot of funding in the machine learning AI space. Now, what we really need is parents who have kids to, take the risk and let us go through the workflow and teach the kids machine learning, Python as early as middle school, right? What we're finding out in the marketplace for this, at least for the education space, is teachers aren't empowered to even come up with their own budget, yet alone take risk on learning something that's so fast paced and doubling in capability every 9 months, right? It's kind of scary when you think about, but there are other countries that are taking advantage, like Singapore, um, India, Australia. I work for Australia defense firm, consulting 2 days a week, and they have their network internally so well done, and it's so easy to add capability inside the Australian companies. And it's like we almost lack that because we are so corporation focused and we don't have the stability that a lot of countries have. So because we don't have stability, partnerships are becoming less and less frequent. And then, companies will let go of people, like with me, for instance, just because they're cost cutting for an acquisition, and they literally got rid of a whole AI team at Fleer Systems when I was there. So how do we maintain some stability for at least Texas and take that into the world as we educate and have fun in the process? We're doing robotics, and I say R2D2 because that's like a mascot idea. It's like this could be fun for kids to learn on. It could be a laser tag robot friend, but it also could be doing functional things around the house, right? And I think having something like that where people can work on pretty early while they're learning and outside of school, because if schools aren't willing to take the risks, at least we have to help our kids stay competitive, right? And so that's a big passion of mine. Partly because my sister has 3 kids out in El Paso, and I know they're not going to get the technology exposure, and that's a very stereotypical like Texan small town. It's like a lot of military there, but they don't have the exposure because they're not in Austin, right? They don't have these opportunities. So how do we help all the small towns, starting in Texas, and then proliferate out in the US,
Sure.
and then while connecting the kids to colleagues all over the world? Because how cool would it be if you had global exposure starting in middle school to
Yeah.
students, right? So that's really the dream, because I have a lot of background running global businesses, and just having a few customers that see that vision for their kids and like just want to have fun. Like we'll literally build a R2D2 laser tag robot together and see how well it does against us.
No, I like that. I mean, that sounds like almost a challenge that we could do another panel debate on for the
Oh, for
TETN.
sure.
See what we can do with that. Okay, that's very cool. Yeah, and I like that. So last question then. As I said, I'm a lazy interviewer.
Yep.
What is the one question you wished I'd already asked you on this interview?
Yeah, I think how do we so I'm big on global platforms, ecosystems, and I'm very used to thinking about gig economy workers. But as small businesses in the Texas area, Red Cat, for instance, had this whole 5-day interview with all their partners, including Athena AI, Reveal, a big drone company, a lot of sensor integrators, and they're big on this whole partner platform concept. And the real question I have, and I've been thinking about this for 3 years, how do we do something similar? So even if there's a small business here with technical capabilities, 5 hours a week, we help each other, right? And accelerate their capabilities while raising up the whole ecosystem inside of Texas. Because there's development talent and business talent And like I can move real quick with iterations on value propositions, for instance. How do we plug in each other and help each other, even if it's 5 or 10 hours a week on our free time on the weekends, but to really raise the level and the bar, to really bring out our individual strengths from experiences to not only the parents, people are looking to reskill into AI, but also the students, and show, how we can do this effectively without fear, and built off of trust and fun collaboration. So
That is very profound. Absolutely. How do we do that?
yeah,
So basically democratizing both information, education, and business all in one fell swoop.
yeah,
That's a pretty
yeah,
big room.
yeah. I mean, it is, but it's everything I've done in my career. So it's like,
Sure.
I've had the blessing to have a mother from Cambodia, for instance, who's come and lived killing fields, and it's like, I know people are overseas. I know cultures are traumatized in various aspects of the world. And if we can just release them from that and provide a loving and safe environment for them to explore technology, who cares what was done last year or history, and let's let go of past forms of control. Because I think that's rampant all over the world. And let's create the new future of what we envision this new world to be. And then, I think there's going to be a day and age where those are part of the ecosystem are moving 20 times the speed of industry at a tenth of the cost,
Yep.
because we're having fun, and like people are working 60, 70 hours a week if they want, because they're like, hey, let me get this project done so I can make my team better,
Sure.
versus what's done today is everyone's an individual. School systems don't know how to teach collaboration or even real world work environment.
Yeah.
And there's a falsity out in the world, like you must do certain things a certain way, but they're not looking at the changing, evolving ecosystem, the market landscape of the future, right? Which is something I'm very passionate about.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've been thinking about this in our businesses, since COVID, the whole economic crisis, whatever else, whatever you want to call the great disruption, life has changed, the world has changed. And I think certainly a lot of our clients are struggling to get their revenue back to where they were prior to the disruption. And
Right.
it's like Einstein said, the old way of thinking, the way of thinking that caused the problem is not the way of thinking that's going to solve the problem. And we
For
need to
sure.
be very different in how we approach things.
Oh yeah, and it's just allowing credibility, and I think the day and age of even a single company probably won't float, or at least fly in a lot of places, especially Austin, because you have some people with side hustles and side gigs that are just having fun on the side. And I just got a second Tesla on the way Friday, and like I literally Uber that thing out, and 10 cars can make me $60,000 a month, even after paying college kid drivers $30,000 a month. That can fuel a business. Like that's a very different approach, but it fuels a business without capital, right?
Yeah.
So like, what are those unique ways we can all add value to each other and do very unique things to fuel our dreams, right? And that's how I see it.
Absolutely. That is very, very profound. Well, Alex, it's been a real pleasure, and you've opened my eyes a lot. And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to sharing this with the community and with a greater community on LinkedIn as well. So thank
All
you for
right.
your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you, David. Have a good day.